Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post was Shabbos Chanukah, and the war in Israel is titled The Sound of Silence. This week, with Shabbos Chanukah, it's a unique opportunity. It has a unique quality. As Shabbos and Chanukah is an integration of two different aspects of Avodas Hashem. As the Zohar explains, there's two ways of serving Kadosh Baruch Hu. There can be an internal or an external expression. And the Zohar elaborates on this and explains that in the Beis HaMikdash, there was the Avodah of the Kohanim and the Leviim. And the Kohanim was the Avodah which was more through a prayer or through the Karbanos, and it was more an internal connection, an internal expression of Avodas Hashem. And therefore the Zohar relates this to oil being substance that is silent when you pour it. And this is the idea, as a symbolic message, the internal Avodas Hashem relates to the substance of oil, whereas the Leviim, and their avodah in the Beis HaMikdash was external, it was loud, it was through singing, it was an external expression. And therefore the Zohar relates this to wine. Wine being a substance, when you drink it, it's something which leads to external expression, a loud external expression of the self. So therefore we can take from the Zohar an understanding that there are two ways of serving Kadosh Baruch Hu, and these relate symbolically to oil and to wine. Therefore, if we look at Shabbos and Chanukah, Shabbos and Chanukah is a fusion, an integration of these two aspects of internal and external Avodas Hashem, because we are Mekadesh the Shabbos through wine. When we make Kiddush on the wine, this is how we are celebrating and marking the day of Shabbos and bringing the holiness of Shabbos into our life. And this relates to wine. Whereas Chanukah, obviously, and the lighting of the menorah as well, is oil. This is the silence of Avodas Hashem. This is the internal aspect of serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, if we look at Shabbos and Chanukah and the quality, therefore this unique quality of Shabbos and Chanukah, it's an integration of the two different forms of Avodas Hashem, of an external and internal way of serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it gives us this opportunity of a more complete and comprehensive way of connecting with the Kadosh Baruch Hu and appreciating the relationship that we have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if we continue further, taking this idea that the Zohar says, that oil relates to silence. At this moment, where we've gone through since Sukkot now to Chanukah, and we are celebrating Chanukah, this is a time, this is a festival, we could say, a chag of oil, of a chag of silence. And what is the significance of this silence? How can we reflect and understand what this silence is for us, this experience of silence, the sound of silence? So perhaps it is still the trauma of silence, that we are still within this state of emotional turmoil and distress of trauma, that we just don't have the words to express how we are feeling. We don't have the ability to express our emotional world at the moment. And that partly is because in the situations of trauma, it affects the Broca's area of the brain, the language area of the brain. And therefore this affects our ability to use communication, to use language, to express ourselves. We are in a state of silence because of the trauma that we are experiencing. But perhaps on a more practical level, in a sense, the silence is an inability at the moment to socialize and communicate with other people. In a sense, the emotional distress leads us to retreat into ourselves and to be more internally focused on ourselves. And we just don't have the ability or the desire to communicate with other people. We are living at the moment in a state of silence, and in a sense, self-isolation from other people. But perhaps this silence as well is a sense of waiting in silence, waiting and hoping and praying that we will hear something, that we can hear some good news. We want to hear. We just are sitting in silence with a elevated sense of attunement to try to hear something, anything, any good news to indicate that we are going to be moving out of this terrible situation at the moment. And perhaps also the silence is an opportunity to connect with ourselves. Perhaps this silence actually has a therapeutic element to it. It's something which can be adaptive. And certainly in mindfulness exercises uses silence to allow a person to be more attuned to what's going on around them, externally and internally. It's a sense of being able to increase our ability to be self-attuned and to self-regulate, rather than being overly or a sense of over engagement with our emotions and what's going on, which can be overwhelming and can overrun us in a sense, and lead to a sense of hopelessness and that we're out of control. Being in silence and connecting with the silence has a therapeutic quality to help us to engage with what we need, to be more self-attuned and to self-regulate. And in the end, what comes out of this silence, this therapeutic, adaptive connection with the sound of silence, is an ability, and as well, as we were saying through Shabbos and Chanukah, is to be connected with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to be attuned to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that we will be able to hear the Kol Demama Daka, this, as Eliyahu Hanavi said, this small, this slender, quiet sound of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that we will be able to connect more with the Kadosh Baruch Hu and gain strength and encouragement and reassurance from hearing this small, silent sound from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this Kol Demama Daka. This hopefully will be what we can get out from the sound of silence of Chanukah. That it helps us to get through this difficult time. But not only is oil related to silence, we also know that oil is a substance that rises up. If we pour oil into water, it's something that rises up to the top. So too, the silence of Chanukah, of oil, the silence of Chanukah is also the silence that will help us eventually to rise up, to be strong, and to come out of this difficult situation. So I wish you a good Shabbos, Chanukah Sameach, and keep well.